Ben Desai, aka Benfluencer on Instagram. You are an AR and VR expert. You lead innovation at Cyberbrokers. Tell me more about your background.
Sure. I actually started as a graphic designer when I was still living in LA, and then I moved to Germany, where I'm now, and did a master's for media design. Got really into UX, and was working at a company where we were doing stuff with AR that wasn't even like really possible yet. We were like essentially building apps for Google Glass, that did AR stuff, even though Google Glass wasn't really made to do AR. It was just informative. So you'd be looking at like a car and you would see like an X-ray version of it, just like in your glass. So the first stuff I did was actually in glasses, and then nowadays it's moved to the phone. So I started working in social media, got early access to Facebook's Spark. At the time it was called Spark AR, and started creating filters for social media.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were working on Google Glass, and you said it was not AR. I thought Google Glass was AR. So, like, how is that? Why is that not AR?
So it's okay. So there's like strictly speaking, if you go AR, it needs to use the camera and somehow like add additional information to what it's seeing, like to the actual environment. And Google Glass was more like its notifications in front of you, like in a little screen. That's how it was used. So you'd get an email, or you could write a text message. You would get a text message, but the text message has nothing to do with what you're actually seeing, right? It's not like you're staring at your phone and then get that information. So that's kind of thing. We created a contextual way that actually used the camera, looked for a marker, looked for a car, and then was giving information based off of what you're actually looking at.
So, how would you define Google Glass? Is it like because it's not really augmented reality. It's not definitely not VR. Like, what category is that?
Yeah, it's a wearable. It was under wearable, like wearable tech, and it was just kind of an alternative for what you were doing on your phone, and with a less intrusive way. Well, it depends how you define intrusive, but it should be that you don't have to look at as your phone as much. It's giving you kind of freedom, and it doesn't like cause you to doom scroll or to scroll too much, spend too much time anywhere, because in a way the UI it's not made for that. It's not something that you get lost in. You find you respond to or check out important messages coming in, and that's kind of it. And then you kind of deal with real life. Yeah.
Okay, so could you define, because you define like AR really well. Could you just redefine AR and then define VR and then XR? Because I hear these terms all the time. I'm like, I don't even know what's what.
Yeah, so AR, okay, the thing is, I did define it that other way, but I like to be really general with AR. So when I'm talking about AR, it's the actual world that you see, and we're augmenting that. So we're augmenting the reality that we see, and putting things into it. So you can place elements into it, or you can look at something specific, like even if it was a sticker or a logo, and you'll be getting extra information around that. And that could be info, so infotainment, or it can be so useful information or playful. It can be just entertaining. It can be education. So that's, I think, how I'd go with AR. It kind of blew up in 2016 with Pokemon Go. That's when it became like a household word. But I think even most people that used Pokemon Go didn't have that function on, like to have the camera and having it place like Pokemon there. A lot of people were just using the geolocation function of it. So yeah, it's an interesting term. VR, of course, virtual reality is you're putting on a headset and you are in a completely different, separate space. So it has no connection to reality. So like you can be in your office space, you put on this helmet and you're in outer space. So it's a complete like disconnect. And then XR, is like kind of everything in these spaces. And sometimes even these headsets now where they're like melting, right? So there's VR headsets that use camera, so you can actually see the actual space around you, and then you can put things into the mixed reality there. So again, like it's combining the tech that you would have from a VR headset or using AR on your phone.
Okay, so I want to go back a little bit to how you got started in this world, and what was it about AR VR that got you excited personally and wanting to spend more time focused on this kind of area.
Yeah, with AR, I think it's just a magical thing. You are able to enhance something in a way that wasn't possible before. Like if you grew up like even playing like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh cards and they throw them down, these holograms come out seemingly like into real life. That was all of a sudden possible with AR. You have like right now we still have this phone in the way, but through the phone we can see this kind of like magical stuff happen. I think it's always like entertaining to see what Snap and now what TikTok is doing with AR in terms of face filters. Like that's why they have so many uses. They're beauty filters. They're funny. It's an entertaining thing to see yourself augmented, like just looking a little different. And it was fun to get my hands on that tech. I was like one of the first people that had access when Facebook released that, so you could use their platform to build effects for Facebook at first and then later Instagram, and it was super fun to do it. And I think from the beginning, like this is the technology we're going to be using in the future because it just makes sense, but not through our phones. Like we will be, I mean, the talk of AR glasses, the talk of contacts has been speculated for a long time, but I think we are like on the cusp of getting glasses. And same with VR. The first time I put on a VR headset, um, it was one of the most simple demos ever. It was like smacking a balloon around in the air, but because you got haptic feedback on those controllers and it sounded like you were really doing it, it was like this is incredible. And in the beginning, I showed so many people that demo on the Vive headset, and people were like freaking out, like it's real. And then, I mean, where we are today, you can do extreme simulations of anything. You can create art in there. I spend so much time. I mean, that's what I use VR for every day is as a 3D art tool. So I model in there, and I take those models and I often bring them into VR. So I create AR experiences having used VR to create the 3D models to do so.
Okay. Oh my God. So many questions here. Okay, let's go. Okay, so you said that. Do you think phones will go away? Like, do you think that in the future we're gonna have just glasses and headphones and then like AirPods and like phones will not be a thing? Like our phone will be in our glasses and it'll be like AR and VR.
I don't think things. I'm not sure if it'll like go away fully because it might be comfortable to do some things on them, and I think for a while it'll be kind of like this like
Mixed.
intermediary device, right? Where it's actually powering your glasses, or it's that connection is somehow necessary in the beginning. But I think for a lot of stuff, it'll make sense. I mean, most of the time spent on your phone, it's like consuming, and you'll be able to consume very well on your glasses, also. But so much about like in the movie Her, right? Everything had gone kind of like voice. And I think so much is changing right now, also through AI, that I could imagine maybe we don't have to. It's so weird, but maybe we don't have to do as much stuff anymore. And if you don't need to physically do it, if you can just do it per voice, and then you can, uh, you know, take in the content visually. Yeah, why would you really need a phone? What do you actually need to do there? Like you can type, you can speak to text. So that kind of replaces it. I mean, we're getting to a point where you'll be able to think to text like in our lifetime for sure. So yeah,
Have you heard of Control Labs?
not sure.
They were a startup that was bought by Facebook. I want to say in like was it like maybe 2019, 2018, and made by some genius guy who I think was I think he created Internet Explorer. I think so. He's like OG, super smart,
Okay.
and he created this device that is a right now it's a wristband. I'm not sure like what it is today, but you can
Hmm.
control computers with this wristband, like just thinking. And so he was playing a video game. Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, he ended up buying him back a few years back, and I haven't heard anything about them since. But I mean, I saw that you can like Google it online.
Yeah, I saw this, and then like points at the light and can like change it by going like this. I
Yeah,
believe that was it.
yeah.
Yeah,
And it
yeah,
was like Super Mario, like it was like the early Mario where he's jumping over the monsters and
yeah,
controlling all like. And I'm like, man, like this is real today, or like a few years back. Then it
yeah.
must be much better today, I would imagine. But
Oh, for sure.
so yeah,
Yeah,
no, I think you're absolutely correct that it's really cool to think about. Maybe our phone will be like a battery pack, and then our glasses will
yeah,
be the actual screen. Our headphones will be like AirPods, and then we'll have some sort of watch that's kind of controlling the computer. Anyways, it's very wild things to chat about. But okay, I want to ask you about how did you get access to kind of this? You mentioned like you're for early user, first user of kind of some of this technology. How did you get access to that?
So I've just always been super curious about everything in this space. And when I was working at this social media company, um, social media content wasn't enough for me. I was always checking like what's new. I was always a pusher of being a first mover because like we know now it's really great for the algorithm. When Instagram came out with Reels, you want to be making Reels because that's what they're pushing. That's how it is. So it was this combination of my own curiosity plus like I want to be first. So as soon as I heard about it, I'm signing up for the beta. And in the beginning, it was that it was just kind of seeing it early, signing up for the beta, and then now I'm in that world. But I'm in the community, I'm in the AR community, I'm in the VR community. So when things come out, of course, I hear about them right away. I can point to the work that I've done in the past, and that normally helps me get access. And then sometimes once you're in there, you're in, and then you also get access to things right away. So that's what's kept me like quite, I think, at the forefront of this tech. And it just comes down to my own curiosity. Like every time I see a new tech advancement or a technology that I could potentially get my hands on, I want to because I already have a million ideas that I want to try out with it.
That's awesome. Okay, and you mentioned a few things before. You said that your friends were trying this balloon simulator thing in VR and
Yeah.
hitting it, and their reaction. Like, there's not too many pieces of technology today where people try it and they're like, "Oh my god, like that was amazing!" Right? I feel like that's pretty rare, and to have that reaction is pretty telling. It's like, okay, cool, like we're onto something massive.
Yeah.
Why? And when I first tried VR back in the day, like I was like, "Oh my god, this is like
Yeah.
game changing." But it hasn't taken off yet. And you also mentioned that like soon, but I think we've been hearing soon for like so many years. So like, why do you actually think it's soon, or are you just kind of saying like soon?
I'm legally obligated to say soon. No,
Yeah.
I was saying actually before I said soon with I meant the AR,
Okay,
right?
okay. AR,
And
AR
it's
before
so
VR.
interesting. Yeah, in terms of glasses, mass adoption, I think so.
Okay,
Because can honestly, okay, and actually, this is about this. It used to look like there were two paths. It used to look like there was like VR and AR, but now these headsets are able to do both. I mean, even the newest Quest Pro that came out, it's kind of more open and it comes with like essentially blinders to like turn it into a full VR headset. But through the pass-through mode, you're able like through the cameras to see everything around you, and therefore you can design in real space, or you can play games that incorporate your table. Um, so for tabletop gaming, so there are it's already like mixing. I think before the time runs out on to see who would have won,
Mhm.
like it will be mixed reality devices. I think that's what's happening, and therefore that's where we're going.
So what do you think about this? Like, when will we have the iPhone moment? When will we have the mass adoption of either AR, VR, or XR?
I still am hopeful that when the Apple glasses come out, that they will be done correctly, and as long as they are, like that will cause like a change, right? That's when anytime Apple comes out and says like we're putting our money here we're putting our money where our mouth is, and then developers swarm and start developing and creating for it. I mean, to the point where I'm getting into Unity right now as well because I want to be building for this. So like still building in AR, but for glasses. Um, so I could have totally imagined that it's something like this that similar to when they've made big announcements in the past and they've already come out with something that you could do right away to kind of showcase this technology and why it's so great. So I could imagine that they're working right now behind the scenes with some incredible demos, and then that kind of gets everyone thinking in those directions. And then there'll be some games that go in that direction. It'll be, of course, it's tricky. I mean, it's not that iPhones are cheap, but I mean, this headset's going to cost like easily, $2,000. So, but that'll kind of show the cost in terms of what Facebook was doing with their headsets wasn't necessarily the blocker.
Okay, so you think it's going to be AR, and you think it's or no, not AR?
Yeah. So that's yeah. So it's gonna be AR at the same time. Like I think they're coming out with a mixed reality headset.
Okay.
Like it has an actual mode that goes between both.
So I was thinking that Apple's going to release glasses, not like a headset, or because I think they're doing an XR headset, but they also delayed the launch of their AR glasses. Is that so? So you're excited about both, or does one make you?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like I think when the first tablets came out from them, I was like, "Do I need that? I want the phone." And it's kind of like making a decision between I'm not going to make a decision. I'm going to get both, and then I'm going to see, after using it, be like, "Okay, this is me. This is my lane." But yeah, no, I think. Yeah, I'm saying I think I am optimistic that it will be there and it will be through the glasses. Exactly, it did get delayed, so we'll see. But like I said, the longer time goes on, I can just imagine uh, like a mixed reality headset kind of taking the lead in the meantime.
So, and this is talking about mixed reality. This could be the incorrect. This could be the wrong question to ask, but my thought process was I think most people will interact with the metaverse, which is kind of like this big thing that we're all involved with. Very nebulous term, but people will interact with the metaverse through augmented reality because it's more like day to day, versus VR to me is more like playing video games. It's like tons of people play video games, but it's like I play video games to like get away from the world and like be engrossed in this different world. While AR is like I'm gonna go grab coffee and I'm gonna walk to Starbucks, right? I'll put my AR glasses on. And so I think most people will use AR versus VR. Do you have an opinion on that, or do you think it's going to like? Yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I also think it's like what type of work do you do? What does your work look like, right? Because so the fact that I'm working in 3D, it's nice to actually be in this other space. Like it looks, oh, it's. I mean, it could look like whatever. It could just look like a white room. But sometimes it looks like there's like a giant warehouse, and then I just meet up with other people, and we're working in that space. It's very freeing, but it makes more sense most of the time to be in VR there. Like I don't need the distractions that I actually have from my desk or in real life there. Yeah, so I think
That's so cool. It's like in order to stay more focused, you go into VR.
yeah, exactly. Because it's a clean slate there, and then I make a huge mess in there because I just do whatever I want, and then you can just delete it. But yeah, or make a new room next time. But yeah,
That's awesome. Okay, so what are you actually building in there? You said you're 3D modeling, and
yeah.
also what type of software are you using? Like, is it a pre-built software within these headsets? Oh, and then also like what headsets are you using? I know there's a ton of questions, but
Sure. Yeah, headsets I'm using. I only have Quest headsets actually, so I have so the original Oculus that's actually tied to my PC. That's I think from like 2015, 2016. Then I have Quest 2, and then I have the Meta Quest Pro. That's my newest one. That's the one that has like you can go into mixed reality, you can see your actual space around. And I used that, and it was also cool to create content with that to showcase the functionality. But basically the way that my home office setup is right now, I'd rather just go into full VR, like I said, and have yeah a clean working space. And yeah, I normally don't need to bring things from the real world into my work that way. But Yeah, the kind of work I'm doing is different 3D work. So it could be for a filter, or it could be for actually most of the stuff I do is filter or uh, stuff that goes into like a metaverse space. So I have a VR group. We meet every 2 weeks. I think we're like the largest group of our kind because we're from different backgrounds. We're not working at the same company or anything, yet we all meet up in the same tool that can fit up to 20 different people that work in VR at the same time to build 3D. Yeah. So the tool that I use, because you also asked that, I use Gravity Sketch, which is a completely free tool, and it's incredible. And yeah, you can basically model whatever in it using VR, so completely 3D models. And I mean, I have people in the group that I work with that have actually used it to create prosthetics. So it's like a serious, yeah, like prosthetic limbs. So it's like a serious tool. It's loved by shoe designers. It's loved by automotive designers, and yeah, and I just use it as a completely as an art tool.
That's so cool. So the advantages of, you know, working in VR and in building something in 3D are what? Because I feel like the user interface. Because I was of the opinion that, oh my gosh, this is kind of related a little bit, but oh my gosh, these different blockchain based virtual worlds, CryptoVoxels, Decentraland, etc. These things are awesome. People are going to start spending more time in here versus like Facebook and Instagram, because these
Mhm.
virtual worlds are like social media networks, but they're just more immersive. And I was like, wow, like this is amazing. I think I was wrong completely on that. I think that is generally correct. I think that will happen, but it's like the timing's way off. But what I realized is that people just want the easiest user experience, and like just
Yeah.
clicking on a screen is way easier than like walking to a place and talking to your neighbor or whatever. So yeah, tell me about like why creating in VR is actually better than on a simple screen.
Sure, sure. But real quick about what you just said, I mean, like you also have to look at how we use content, right? I mean, we have Netflix since however many years and all these streaming services, which basically let you can watch whatever you want, whenever you want. If you loved watching stuff, here you go. And people are all sitting there with their phones, like half paying attention, still typing. So, and I think that since you're half on Twitter, you're half watching a show, or you're half. That's why people aren't going fully right into these spaces to replace social media, because they weren't giving their full attention to it in the first place, and this could kind of require it. Okay, but back to your question. Yeah. Sorry, real quick, what was the question exactly?
Like, why does actually going into 3D environments while creating stuff? Why is that easier than just a simple screen?
Okay, great. So a screen is not 3D, right? So if you are using a 3D software on a flat screen, you're still working in like multiple planes. Sometimes you have to split the screen, and then you'll like, it depends how you work, but you'll be like, okay, this is how I'm going to go upward. This is how I'm going to go. You have this whole 3D perspective. And some of those programs, if you've never opened one before, it's so daunting. Like if you've ever opened Photoshop and thought, wow, there's a lot of stuff here that I don't know what's going on. Like 3D tools are just next level, because it's like, yeah. You jump into VR though, and it's using all of these like intuitive body motions that you would use. Like you have this cube in front of you, and you can actually move your head to see it from the side. So you kind of combine your motions, like how you would actually move your view, combined with how you use your hands to manipulate those objects. So like to move it in 3D space upwards or over is just a hand motion. It's so much of what we're used to from real life. So it became it's really super user friendly, and I think it's like you can learn those skills a lot faster, just because it doesn't even feel like work. It feels like it's fun, it's experimentation, it's part play. So they did a really great job in VR with so many tools that they use in VR, because they base it off of like how we move.
Yeah, no, I mean, now that you said that, it's like very obvious. I'm like, oh well, duh. But it's funny because what you're talking about is just more real, which is so weird to
Yeah.
weird to even say, because it's not real. It's like in virtual reality. But yeah, it's of course like if I was modeling on CAD some 3D object, like
Yeah.
increased depth by like 2 inches, like that's very
Yeah.
difficult to understand that. But you're just saying, no, 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 like this is very intuitive. It's very normal. I'm creating something I can turn my head and look around the object and see.
Yeah.
So yeah, no. Now that you said it, very, very obvious.
And that's why the XR headsets are amazing, actually, because if I was building something like a motorcycle, I can actually then place it at scale, and then all of a sudden look at it in the room, and I can stand next to it at at my height and see it and really experience it. Yeah, I mean, the whole time in VR, you can just like get bigger and smaller and get into the details and work on that. But it's a really fun, and it just becomes like the most normal experience. Like if someone would take that away from me, is like, oh, you're back to just computer modeling, it'd be rough.
All right. So here's an easy question for you. In your opinion, what is the metaverse?
Okay, so the metaverse is interesting because I thought when Zuckerberg started talking about it, and he started just making this like vision of something that's going to be in 10 years. And I thought at that time, I was like, yeah, this is really in line. What he's saying is very much in line from everything that I've been like experiencing in this space, but also from kind of science fiction, from books like Ready Player One. I was like, yeah, this is correct. And then other people right away, because there was no product. He talked about something in 10 years, and people were like, we need a product, we need something now. And then it kind of shifted to all of these headlines, people talking about like Gucci's in the metaverse, and it was like, Gucci's in Roblox. Like, what's happening? Like, what are we rebranding and renaming, and what's happening here? And so many people asking like, VR is the metaverse, and most platforms that were calling themselves metaverse weren't even like VR accessible. Yeah, so it's a tricky thing to answer, I guess, because it's like, in a way, what it is a PR nightmare now. But yeah, because I do agree with kind of what you touched on earlier. You said that people will be experiencing what the metaverse is going to be through AR, and I think that's kind of like makes sense. It is our full this whole digital world that we've created. Either you're bringing that out of our screens and you're putting it around us through AR, or you're able through VR to dive into it. But it's just, I guess, like, it's in a way, it's like creating a tighter connection, and maybe an easier to use and more comfortable connection between our whole digital lives, and digital possibilities, and the real world.
I agree with you. I don't think there is a definition. I think you're right about it being like a PR nightmare for sure. I mean, ever since I changed my name on Twitter to Andrew, the Metaverse Guy Steinwald, my Twitter following has just like plummeted. It's crazy. But I'm like, no, I want to keep it. And yeah, for me, it's like, and like, I don't have a definition. I feel like I used to have a definition. I was like, Metaverse is Web3. And then now I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's so simplistic, right? Like like Web3 and ownership online, which is like broadly Web3 blockchain. That to me is a very, very key and important component of the metaverse, but it's not the metaverse. Metaverse to me is kind of like the experiential internet, or the immersive internet, or the seamless melding of the physical and digital worlds together. So one day I think we'll have a definition. I don't have it today, and like I feel like the more I learn, the more I'm like, oh man, like I don't even know how to describe any of this. But yeah, no, it's a very, very exciting world.
Yeah, I used to do metaverse workshops, and people would say, like, do you think the metaverse is it going to be a thing? Like, is it going to be around? And I said, yes. It might not be called the metaverse. Like, it's like how no one says World Wide Web or something like that.
No one even says like I'm on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just there. But like the technologies that are involved, that are like, even if you look at Zuckerberg's vision videos, like everything that's involved in there, of course that's gonna make it. Like, it's incredible. It's showing some stuff where you can have insanely like realistic avatar, like say interviews or meetups or whatever. Why wouldn't we want that? Why wouldn't we want this stuff to continue? It's more accessible. Everything just works. You have super crazy realistic VR experiences. Like all the tech that's involved. Of course, that's going to continue. Yeah. And it'll become normal, and it might be a funny thing in 10 years to look back at the term and be like, we're there, but no one calls it that because that was too hypey at the time.
Totally. All right. So talking about AR, what are some use cases today of AR that has you most excited? And looking forward, what are some future use cases that you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be incredible?
I like current use cases that are like, even if I think of filters, it's like the ones where you get intrigued and you start playing with it, and those ones that become like phenomenons where a couple years back it was like the whatever are you filter or these random generators, and then it just kind of takes the world by storm. Those are funny because those are kind of so simple, and the fact that it just works so well. But of course, I love stuff that's like super useful. So you can scan to get actual more information about something, and it's actually showing you about it. So the concept of replacing user manuals with this stuff, I don't have to read and look away from the subject. I can stay really on the thing. Like you open your car hood and then you point at the engine and it tells you like exactly like what you're supposed to do, or for an oil change. Those kind of things are cool, because they're useful. They react to the actual world, to real targets. I love that stuff. But right now it's still like, now you're one-handed, right? Because we have these phones in our hands. But I'm super excited where that's going. Technically still on the phones, but like the incorporation of the AI into this, like what I've described, like even like a user manual, like these scene understanding, like world understanding, and then being able to build on top of that is just amazing. And it's going to just continue to get crazy. We haven't even seen that much in this. I feel like that's like a next soon boom that's going to happen. And once that gets into glasses, meaning like whatever question I have, I'll just ask, right? Like ask the question and then I'll get information on that. It'll be like as simple as like you're looking at a Lego set and you never look away from it. You have your glasses on and it's pointing at which piece you need to grab next, and then there's like a 3D half translucent model next to it, and then you're building that. And not for something like Legos, like for anything in the real world, for walking down the street and seeing those arrows where you need to turn. That's what I've been excited about forever, because never been great at directions. So yeah, stuff like that.
That's
That
awesome.
integrates in the real world.
So same question, but for VR, what are some use cases that most excite you today, and then future use cases for VR?
So today I love, working in 3D in VR, and I love meeting up with people in that way. Like I think it's when you're talking to someone on the phone, or if you're even having a meeting, it's like a different way of working, because it's what is collaboratively working this way. It's like, your input, my input, maybe we're talking about it. And in VR, it's like we can literally build stuff together. Whatever it is, we can be working on a giant mechanical creature, and you could be working on the face, and I could be working on the feet. Like it's just a really satisfying way to work together and work super quickly. And I think in the future, I'm excited about the realism that's coming to that. Some of the most fun VR things that I've done have been like out of home experiences. Like I did a Star Wars experience once where you have this VR headset on, you have a full suit on, it's tracking you, and you're having this like full on like Jedi experience. If you get shot, you actually feel it because of the vest. You walk through. There was like this lava thing. You actually feel the heat. They bring so much of that in. Sure, that's like an out of home experience where they can add like heat and change how the room is set up for the experience. But at home, I mean, so much of it comes from kind of tricking your brain through like the fidelity of like how real something feels or looks. And I'm excited for some of the things that I see being built right now in Unreal Engine that are like available on VR headsets, and like how like those underwater experiences. And it's just going to be really fun to explore. It's the same thing of like when you've been excited to like check out a video game because this looks really fun, but now it's like so immersive. It's like you're really in this thing, and I'm excited about that.
How do you think, because you're talking about working with people in VR, and there's this big obviously push to remote work since COVID. some now a lot of people are going back to the office, and I see pros and cons to both. We've always been remote at Suffermion, so it hasn't really been an issue for us. But it'd be great to be able to interact with my coworkers more and like hang out with them. Number one, how is AR and VR going to change work specifically and like interaction with people at work? And number two, how do you think that it's going to change interaction with people just broadly? I'm talking about everything from like friendships to networking to like dating.
My closer and more recent friends that I hang out with often are I'm in contact through VR, and I know virtually actually only. So that's just what happened. I think being in this space and how open we are, like as VR creators, to connect, which has been really cool. At the same time, working remotely is both useful. We're doing it if I can imagine and it makes sense to put more VR headsets than in the workplace or in at home so that you can do it. Again, like it so depends on what kind of work you're doing. But I imagine if it's like full on crazy high fidelity avatars, that it makes sense to do a lot of stuff that way. Because you for especially international or big remote teams to kind of like get people to have a sense of, oh, I know them, because you do get more of that than if you had never met the person in real life or if you'd only just seen them on the screen. So I think that can be useful. And it's my position is I've had a pre-COVID working environment. So I like all of this. I'm not sure and don't know fully how it is for like the younger generations if they just did stuff like this. If they like from the beginning go, oh cool, this is better. I don't need those like real interactions because I think those are still super important. But yeah, I mean, spending so much time remote and I have a fully remote job, I definitely like that I can meet up with so many people virtually. Like it's a huge benefit to me.
So I guess the pushback I see from people online all the time about remote work broadly is they're like, yeah, humans are social. We need interaction, which I agree with. But my thoughts are, well, in the near future, not today, in the near future, the technology will be so good that our brains won't be able to tell the difference between a virtual interaction and a social interaction, or sorry, a in-person interaction. Yeah. They're going to equal each other, and you'll still get the same benefits from that social, it's social interaction, irregardless. So is that how you see things playing out?
I agree with you. And I think, let's say even the science backs it up where like, they're like, yeah, like children doing social activities this way versus in real, like they have the same benefit. You know how people will still be like, but you should go outside, that thing where they'll still say that. Like part of me is still like, I should probably still because I'm like I said, I've worked and had a whole life pre-COVID, so I guess that's why I'm still thinking that's important. But I do agree though that like you will still have all of those kind of panicky moments, those nervous moments, just as if you were really talking to someone. Like our brains will be tricked by the level that VR will be able to provide.
Well, okay, so and building off that, you just said like, hey, go outside. And the reason people say go outside is because like it's scientifically proven that like going outside and going for walks, in nature and whatnot, and by water, whatever, is like really good for you. And if we can recreate that in AR, VR, whatever, or VR specifically, then like again, our brains won't be able to tell the difference. And I keep seeing pushback from so many people about they're like today we know that the computer interaction is less impactful, less powerful than IRL, in real life interaction. And yeah, it's like, of course, like I don't think anyone's arguing against that. I think that what they're not accounting for is that the rapid pace of this improvement. Like I think within, I mean, how many years would you, if you had to throw out a guess, like I think, if I had to just guess, like 10 years, we'll be at a level where our brains won't be able to tell the difference.
Oh, I mean, the thing is, your brain doesn't even need all of this fidelity to not be able to tell the difference. Like, or to tell the, let's say, tell the difference, yes, and be really confused. But like, one of my very early VR experiences is put on this headset, and I'm as if I was walking on a shipwreck at the bottom of the ocean. There's fish all around me, and then there's this whale that comes and it lifts its tail, and then it the tail comes down right at you. And I've seen three people do this thing before me, and all of them, reacted, really jumped backwards. So when it was my turn, I see this thing go up. I say, okay, I'm not going to move because I know nothing will happen, and I know nothing's going to happen. And I forced my body essentially to not react, like to not move backwards. And my heart started beating so quickly because my brain was sending signals like, no, 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 we need to get out of here. And I was like overriding that. And that's crazy. And it's the same thing when you see people in these like VR height, things where if they're scared of heights and now they're all high up, they have these exact same reactions as if that's really happening, as if they were really there. So, I mean, that part is already, yeah, is already proven. But when we're getting to the point where once you're in there, you can't tell because like you can't make conscious decisions on top of the conscious reactions that you're having. That's going to be interesting. And I think that's also like within 10 years because how fast and amazingly things have changed already just in the last years.
Okay, so I know you're under NDA for a lot of things, but is there? I want to get some juice. Like, can you tell us, like, broadly, what is the craziest thing that you've seen, or is there like some super duper secret technology that is coming out soon that is going to like blow us all away, or is it still like no,
Well, I can't say certain things, but it's interesting because like even on Twitter, I saw somebody today like I can't even mention that. Okay, um, like making uh connections between technologies, like oh, like we're working on this, and I've already seen that's already been integrated, like what AI is being integrated with, for instance, what it's able to do. I thought was already really interesting. But something I can say because it has nothing to do with me, but I think it's super interesting technology. This company that's called Perceptus, which specializes in bringing, AI understanding of contextual scene understanding into into like tablets and phones right now. Meaning, like if you combine that with AR tech, like it's crazy. I've already seen uh, near real time uses using AI to kind of like replace like things in videos, right? So like you can like have like a real time video and of an outdoor scene with a tree, and you could essentially with AI like remove the tree or change the tree into something else. Like that's already like yeah, being experimented with. And I mean, if you combine all of these crazy AIs, like contextual understanding in an AR headset, and you go outside, you could potentially even just change what you're looking at. Like you could change the scene around you through a voice input, and an AI can just like change everything to be more friendly or to look like Lord of the Rings. Like everything, all the houses are changing into Hobbit style stuff. Like I've seen experimentations that go in this direction, and we're getting to the point where like that's possible. And anyway, I kind of drifted off from Perceptus, but the point of Perceptus is it's this technology that was revealed last year in January, and I think that's going to be being brought into all this stuff, like from Apple, like these AR glasses, where you'll be able to get information just by looking at something, like your coffee cup, and it can tell you. Yeah, that one's weird, but like you look at a Starbucks cup, and it'll tell you like the things from their menu, or you can like then click in the air and just order like the stuff that has been missing right now with AR. It's been so specific, like it had one purpose. Like you use an AR filter has one purpose. It changes your face, or it looks for this specific one marker and does something with this. But this will like really just open everything up to be to be like connected to one platform, and then you can bring brands into that with sales opportunities or fun opportunities, or I mean, imagine what that would look like at Disneyland, where you could just look at any ride and you'd have the wait time just like floating in the air because all this contextual information that has been missing with like the tech how we've been using it right now. Yeah.
Yeah, or you're walking around and you see you grab like discount codes for like this ride or like this experience or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, no, that there's so many cool opportunities with that. So okay, we've been talking about AI a lot, and I feel like every podcast now, like it always comes up, and it has to. Um, what are your what are your thoughts on I guess AI broadly, even though it's a super high level question that just want to hear, and then also specifically around your arena, which we'll just call like XR. What are your
Mhm.
thoughts on AI and how is it going to impact XR?
So really recently there was this like viral TikTok filter that came out that uses
Beauty filter.
yeah,
Everyone's
beauty
been talking
filter.
about that. I need it.
Yeah, so that one's crazy because I checked it out because like that scared me where I was like, oh, I make filters like this, and the idea that you won't even like need to physically do anything anymore, like that just works with like code. It just goes like, okay, like I understand this is the face, this is this, and it's making all these changes. Like it's so much uh, through AI. It's just really constantly removing the artist from these things because it's so quick. Like we're at a point right now where I love using AI to do all this 2D artwork, and I use that 2D artwork often as reference in my 3D artwork. But we're also getting to a point where there's going to be you just text to 3D model. So it's just changing. Bottom line, AI is changing so quickly, and the advancements are so incredible and so fast. It's making me constantly. On the one hand, I'm like, yeah, give me all the AI, and I'll bring those tools into my workflow. But it's definitely making me think like two steps ahead, or like, okay, like, will I be doing this? Like I used to draw all the time. I really stopped drawing since I got access to the tools because like from an efficiency standpoint,
Wow.
it's just faster to get my like what I would have used as reference or to kind of like prototype an idea, be like, oh, let me like sketch that out. Like I'll just use an AI to do that instead at this point, which is if I take a step back and reflect on it, I'm like, oh, I don't really love that,
Yeah.
but that's also yeah.
So sum it up. It's like incredibly powerful, and in addition to that, pretty terrifying. Is that like fair to say?
Yeah, it is.
It's
Every
terrifying in
once
like
in a
a
while,
good way, broadly.
yeah. Every once in a while, I'll take a step back and be like, "Boy, this is it's scary because it's hard to keep up with even mentally to be like, oh, um, like I had a couple things like last year. I was like, oh, like next it'll be like text to video, and it'll be this and this, and they just came. Like I was like, oh, within 2 years, and it was just like the month later, it was like, oh, that's happening now. That's already here. Yeah, so it's really a wild ride.
Yeah. So I see a lot of people, give pushback here again with people are saying, oh no. Like I was talking to someone because I wrote this tweet thread about Hollywood is over. I was like,
Yeah,
Hollywood is now
I saw that.
over. AI has made content generation 100x cheaper. Anyone can now monetize a global audience through NFTs and crypto and whatnot. So I was like, Hollywood is done for, right? Like that power structure is gone. And someone from Hollywood was like, "This is the worst take I've ever seen. You know nothing about Hollywood. Like if you think that this is going to happen, then you're saying like this whole everyone's jobs, like either from the filmmaker to the background guy to the set guy, whatever, all these jobs. He said those are all done. Like you're insane if you think that's gonna. And I'm like, I'm not like trying to like root for the downfall of your jobs or anything. Like I'm just saying that like, wow, someone in whatever country or anywhere in the world with the internet can now create
Yeah,
a film or some images or some content for extremely cheap and then just distribute that for free on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, etc. So I'm like the tool set that we have now is incredible, and the distribution and reach and the barriers to reaching a billion people are zero. So I'm like,
yeah.
man, I just don't see how Hollywood in its traditional structure is going to stay around. And I mean, I'm a neophyte in that arena, right? I'm just kind of guessing and kind of learning based off of what I've learned and what I've seen. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, IPs are always still strong, so it's not like it'll go away. But I think um, for a long time, you could do like an indie game, or someone might have made a game themselves, and that might have diehard fans because the idea was so good. But maybe like visually, it couldn't compete with AAA games. And then I think even like last year when I saw when Unreal 5 came out and what people were creating, like a team of one can create a game that still looks like a AAA game. I thought like, wow, it's really changing. And I thought even back then, like in the next couple of years, like these kids right now are growing up with these tools, and they're just going to be so just be able to do things on their own that teams were needed for before. And now, I mean, with AI, it's like just take that to times a million, because you can sit there by yourself, use AI to do so many different things. You could do all your storyboard. You can have do your script writing, and it's completely true. You're like you said, if you have access to the internet, like you can just do so much. And we are seeing these videos being created that are amazing with the help of AI. And this is like we're like at day one right now. So yeah, I mean, next year it's already the videos that we're going to see are going to be incredible, and then it seems to be scaling so exponentially in terms of quality. I don't understand, yeah, how it couldn't like rival.
And what are your? I mean, this is kind of a maybe not the topic du jour, but what are going to happen to those people's jobs? Because it's not like, again, like I'm not rooting for that, but I just see where we're headed, or where I think we're headed, and I'm like, man, like it's not just their jobs; it's like everyone's
Yeah,
jobs. Like I
yeah,
think everyone is going to be like, I will be replaced. Like there's going to be an AI version of Andrew that's like much better podcast
yeah.
interviewer, and like better at adventure and etc. So I guess this is a bigger question, but what do you think is going to happen?
I don't know. That's one thing that I think about a lot, because that part on it, like, it freaks me out a little bit, because I'm like, what's happening? No one is thinking of I think ahead of like the solutions that we're gonna need. I mean, we're gonna be like in Wally and just consume infinite content, I guess. But
It's funny you mentioned that, because I talked to my partner Dan, partner at Sophermion, and we say we're like, in a world where the production costs are like zero, like what are people going to do? Like what is going to be the edge or the advantage? Because everything's going to be 3D printed or made by AI instantaneously,
yeah,
etc. And I think the desire for entertainment, that'll never go away, because we're people, and we
yeah,
love cool funny cat videos and whatever, and also relationships. I think people will always want to connect with people, whether that be
oh yeah,
AI people, whether it be real people, whatever. Like they just want to form bonds. And then three is like status. I think people, we've shown throughout history is that we've had this never ending desire for seeking status, and people are always playing weird status games. Like what is it like back? We used to kill each other over tea. Like tea, like there
hmm
was like wars fought over tea, and like was tea a necessary good? Like no, it was just like fun to drink, and like it was delicious, right? So it's like,
yeah.
and that was kind of a status thing, or certain furs from North America sent to Europe, that those were like very fashionable. So yeah, I'm just like, those human nature will never change. So throughout all
That's
of this,
true.
I'm like that'll stay constant. But that's why specifically I'm so excited about entertainment, because I'm like, okay, that's
Yeah.
an area that you invest in. Status and relationships, like that's kind of harder in my mind, at least. But I think entertainment will have a huge boom, like starting from like 2023, like forward.
Well, okay. Well, one thing that's interesting that you mentioned, because I did forget about this. I feel like also real things will have like real things, handcrafted things will increase in value a bit. So like a real painting will get like fashionable and interesting again as well, because it's all about like the fact that time was put in. Like humans sat there and put time into it, and like crafted like handcrafted things, and that might even go away from the arts and into like like well, furniture is yeah, it's not away from the arts, but it might be like that will have that status thing that you were talking about as well. Like a person made this, not a robot. But in terms of content, like I had this idea. It's so crazy. I had this idea like 6 years ago where I was like, oh, we'll get to, and this was before all this AI boom, but I was like, oh man, I had watched or seen this article about how an AI was trained to do Mozart music on all the Mozart music, and then could create new Mozart style music. And that alone got me thinking like, whoa, like we're going to get to a point like AI in I don't know how many years, it's going to be at a point where it can just by watching shows, it has access to therefore every word that was ever said in the show, every angle of those person in the show, and it will just be able to create infinite content. And then you could be like, I like these two shows, mix them together. And now, I mean, this was like an old idea, but now I'm like, of course we're getting there. But that was interesting because you said about content and production of content. But I'm I mean, I'm thinking already like we're going to be at a point where I don't need somebody to make that because I can just tell the AI to give me like just yeah, give me make these two things with me. I want to watch.
Yeah, no, it's so cool that you mentioned the handcrafted like things because Japan is a society that really values their whatever, right? Like I watched this YouTube documentary about traditional sea salt harvesting in Japan, where it was like two guys with like shovels in like this big kind of not cave, but like a big indent near the ocean, and they were like I don't know, they were like harvesting sea salt
Yeah.
manually, right? Or it was like these I think it was Egyptian tile creators that were making these really cool handmade Egyptian tiles, right? And like it's totally doesn't make any sense from like a ROI standpoint. It's like it's way easier to make tiles with machines, or way easier to harvest sea salt with also with machines. But there is something to be said about like the handcraft, and there'll always be demand for that. So that's really really cool. And then also, yeah, your second point about infinite content. That's gonna like content's gonna go text prompt. So we're gonna say, I want to see Tom Cruise in Shrek or whatever, and like boom,
Yeah,
or
exactly.
or it's gonna be like personalized feed TikTok style. So it's gonna be like, oh, I'm just swiping, and it's like showing me
Yeah.
whatever it thinks I like, and is infinite, which is just incredible. And here's one thing that I tweeted out. And I'm not sure, I had some thoughts around this. I want to get your take. But I was like, I think that this era of movie stars is probably the last batch, or one of the last batches of human movie stars, because Hollywood loves to just make remakes, and it's like a safe thing. And thinking about like The Rock or like Tom Cruise, whatever, will sell their AI rights to different movies, and then you'll just have like my great grandchildren will be watching like Tom Cruise, like Mission Impossible, like 60 or whatever. So yeah, I could see that happening. Is that a future you kind of see as well?
I mean, I definitely think I don't know to the point of like to if it's completely, but I definitely see also like new AI, completely AI generated stars that are like the I mean, even now there's AI influencers that have a ton of following that are that are the favorites of the people, and this will continue to happen because it's makes sense from a business perspective, because if you have full control over the talent, they can't say anything racist or mess up or harm your IP. They can't die, and then so like I definitely see it going in this way. And for a while, or for like a long time, the rights that are being collected right now, the rights that are being collected from current stars, yeah, of course, like why wouldn't that? Yeah, we love to see something familiar, but yeah, I think in one way or another, that's going to be a big part of future content.
Amazing. All right, Ben, time for the closing questions.
Okay.
What are you bearish on?
I don't know. I'm always actually focused on the things I want more of, actually, and I ignore and I move away from. I would have nothing on the tip of my tongue.
That's amazing.
Or maybe yeah, stick with that. But it was just because we mentioned earlier the metaverse term. Maybe
it's a good one. It's a good one. Wow. Okay. Cool. So, is there a term that you would replace it with?
No, I think okay, because I don't have to make these decisions, I would say let's continuously ignore it right now. The term, we'll keep building these virtual spaces. That's happening. People are having fun. It's great. AI seems to be the main focus. That's why also Zuckerberg shifted to that. So kind of just don't even worry about it right now and just let it ride.
All right. What are you bullish on? And it can't be your specific like area of work. It has to be something different.
All my interests, my personal life and work, all goes in the same direction.
Okay, something hyper specific about your work then, or about your passion.
AI tools, more AI tools. Like that's me every day. I'm researching more ones and trying to make myself the fastest, most efficient, yeah, creator out there. Like that's definitely what I want that first access to all of these
That's
things.
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Okay. I won't even be able to paraphrase or anything, but it's the advice is to do things consistently. So like whatever that is, build a habit or get into something new and start right away. That's a big thing, right? So starting right away is a thing where people put something off like to tomorrow, like, oh, starting tomorrow, I'm gonna like I got this advice. If you could do it right now, or if you can start right now, make that first step right now, do it. And that has really changed. Like I went from someone who had a lot of ideas and didn't make all of them or started them too many, nothing really got done to I started doing things like 30-day challenges and I started today and I had a program open every day and after 30 days, you know, you're comfortable with it. So yeah, just like don't put things off. I guess that's what it comes down to.
That's awesome. All right, last question. What motivates you?
I'm motivated. Curiosity. I'm motivated by curiosity. I'm so curious that when if I can't understand how something works, I'm motivated to find out more. Or if I am intrigued by something new, I'm motivated to get my hands on it. Yeah, that and delicious food.
I love that. Love it, man. Awesome. Ben, thank you so much for joining me. It was awesome. I feel like I learned so much, and we will hopefully chat very soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.